And then something happened. I was having a little bit of a health issues, I think, from the stress.
Right.
And my husband kept saying, I think you need to quit working. And I kept saying, I don't want to quit working. I love this. And I did. I love what I did. And I was, for women, and you're making good money and you're successful. And I hit that level. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, oh, you're asking me to trust you, which is what my mother had to do when my father walked out. And so I had to make a conscious effort at that time. Do I trust him or don't I?
Welcome to Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich with your host, me, David Ibarra. And today my guest is Melissa Schaefer, and she is with Strengthen Her Utah.
That's correct.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, as most of you know, we've got a new branding. We're talking about principles of success. And folks that have had success in any arena, whether it's business, nonprofit, family, faith, community, health, no matter what it is, we find some common traits. And as I was looking at your information, it occurred to me the one thing that really kind of just jumped out at me is that you are really good at articulating purpose.
Thank you.
And then I couldn't help but see overcoming adversity.
Yes.
What adjustments need to be made. And in Dr. Napoleon Hill's promise, he always would indicate, and as a young man, I remember this, that every adversity you have carries with it an equal or greater benefit. And I would try to look towards it, and sometimes I'd say, this is going to have to be awful good because I feel real bad right now.
Right.
So share with us a lot about you.
Sure.
I want to talk about your organization, your nonprofit, but right now I'd like to talk about what made you you.
Yeah, it's really good because I think to understand where Strengthen Her Utah is today, and I really just think it's Strengthen Her, kind of have to understand who I am. When I was explaining earlier, I was listening to Live Ready, a video that you were talking about, and as I listened, I kept having this moments like, oh my goodness, this is me. I just called it different. I called my waiting period. My waiting period, your word is so much better. I'm living ready. My waiting period is expecting the next thing to come into my life. I don't know if that's a person, a thing, an opportunity, but and sometimes they're not easy. They're really hard things to do. But when you live ready, it is a blessing that unless you've experienced it, it far outweighs the joyfulness of any $100 million deal I've done in my life. Can't compare.
Well,
it just can't.
You said something right there when you in your comments. If you want something, it's where opportunity and preparation intersect.
Yes.
So many people will want something, but they're not ready.
Right.
And I always thought about if I really want something, get ready for it, and somehow the universe and everything just lines up, and it walks into your life.
Right.
And you recognize it right away.
Right. And you just know it.
Yeah, you just know
it. And so as I was preparing, I was thinking, I've been in this waiting stage for a bit, and I thought, here's a man that I've never met. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. But I know this is a moment. Because I don't believe in coincidences, and I think sometime we're going to look back, and you have impacted me, or I have impacted you, or we've impacted a listener, and we're going to go back and go, wasn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Because we would have never, I don't know if we would have ever met. It just happened.
One of the things I can remember early on is, when we start our early lives, so much of it, at least for me, I didn't have much. And so it was about securing a security of income.
Yes.
And it wasn't until later that I remember Dr. Hill talking about, and I talk about in my book, Live Ready, Beyond Think and Grow Rich, that life really begins when you get to the second tier of compensation. And that is, it's not the money, It's the experience and it's the relationships that you have.
Right.
And those things, man, they impact you and they change your wisdom, and the wisdom never gets old.
And you never look at people the same.
Right.
You never look at life the same anymore.
Well, tell us about you.
So as you were talking about that 14-year-old boy, I thought to myself, I was a 13-year-old girl. My father walks out of our life. My mother doesn't have an education. We barely have food to put on the table. I didn't even know what my purpose was in life and thought if I'm going to learn to survive, I've got to find that. And it was, to a point where I didn't think I would continue. And if someone would have come to me at that time and said, it's going to take you 7 years to get your undergraduate because you're going to work full time and you might not go to school, but you're going to go on to lead as one of the largest technology global companies in the world as an executive. You're going to sit at the table with leaders and travel the world and meet people. You're going to marry an amazing man and have 3 biological children, but I have many children that have come into my life. Some have stayed, some have gone on, but they've touched me. You're going to have that opportunity to retire when you're 45 because you realize that you spend your whole life climbing a mountain, and at some point you realize I'm not on the right mountain. And that's what you're talking about. And that was coming in my life. When I was 20, I picked up Stephen Covey's book, and the thing that stuck with me was, and when I die, what do I want to be known for?
Right.
And that has stuck with me my whole life. And I didn't want to be known just for what I had done. And my husband and I talked about it this week. Even when you're successful or you've been blessed, we still manage, we still budget, because we've had this motto, I should say, I've put it in the family. I've always felt like you live below your means so others can live, so that when you need to help, you can. But that's just not only finance, that's also my time, and my time is precious to me. So my husband and I were just kind of doing an analysis and like, this is where we are and budget and things like that. And I got to thinking to myself, I could have continued working I'm 57, another 12 years, and wow, man, what would we have done and financially? But I would not trade anything in my last 12 years for any money in the world.
Well, it sounds like you're in the second tier level of compensation, relationships, and experiences.
And it started earlier than that, but it's given me this opportunity to focus on that.
Well, tell me, as you go through and we talk about, in my case, as you may or may not know, I was raised in Utah, foster care for the first 14 years in my life. And, you're looking at life from the outside looking in. You know you don't belong. You can feel you don't belong. And some say, wow. But you know what? For me, I am so thankful that happened because I wouldn't have recognized it, someone else going through it. I can see it like it's a bubble above their head of looking around and not feeling like they belong. And helping people do that is a gift to be able to see it. It sounds to me like yours was so similar.
Exactly the same. I remember hearing, even from an uncle, she'll be pregnant, overhearing conversation. She'll be pregnant by she's 16. She's never going to do anything in life. And that drove me that, I'm going to prove that guy wrong. And that proved me like I lived in an affluent middle class area when my father walked out, but I wasn't invited to houses. I didn't get to go on trips because of my family. I couldn't afford it at that time. Luckily, it's changed, but I could have gotten free lunches, but I wasn't going to identify myself as a student like that. And so I just determined at the time I never want a child to have that hanging over their head. And I want to help women and children and really any person not believe that story.
Well, you just described where you gained your burning desire.
Yeah.
And so I would like to go backwards, although I should continue because we're in a little bit of a good momentum and a groove. But you said something about a large tech company, and you became significant in the leadership role.
Right.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's so funny for me to talk about it because it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. at that time, I think I was still in that moment of proving myself. But again, when you live ready, I got my degree in international business, accounting. I didn't spend any time accounting. There weren't women that designed computers, but I've had the strategic mind that I could figure out how pieces fit together. So I decided to design computers. Got picked up by one of the largest consulting companies, who then this largest global tech company acquired them. And from there, I just had so many blessings to just rise up in that organization. And a lot of it, I think, was my attitude of when people said, "Can you do this?" Yeah, I can do it. When they asked for volunteers, I'll do it. And you just learned. I just wanted to learn.
You described something funny. I remember when I started with Marriott, and I was so scared because I was a young person, 19. I was opening up stores, training bussers and dishwashers and servers, and I said, "Boy," I said, "I don't have no money. So how am I going to rise?"
Right.
And then it occurred to me, always say yes.
Yes, I tell my children that
every
absolutely,
and I can remember them saying, "Hey, who's that Mexican kid? Saying." And then I heard another, "Hey, we need somebody in Chicago. Send that Mexican guy, that kid." And then one time I heard, "We got trouble in Atlanta. Send David Ibarra." Now they knew my name.
Right.
And then the doors opened.
Absolutely.
What was the name of the tech company?
It was IBM. Yeah,
IBM.
So IBM.
Well, Tom Watson.
Yeah, there's Tom Donahue too. Yeah.
And I'll never forget one of the things that I remember that I always do. And when we built our company, there was a man named Tom Watson. And when he had IBM with 5 people, he took them and told them and close their eyes and describe what it would look like when we were successful, and then asked them to act like that from the very beginning.
Yes.
And IBM was born. And Mr. Farrell used to tell us this story. I used to work for Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor restaurants.
Wow.
But great. So you are with IBM, and a big company, and it's gone through a reinvention of itself.
It has, and I think what people don't realize, even in IBM, there's multiple big companies. IBM is aligned by industry. So I was one of the global industry leaders. And that's how you go to market. People know them by the technology brands, but you're really aligned by industry. So I always hear these entrepreneurs like, "Oh, I want to go off and do my own business." And I said, you don't have to. Go and learn from a tech company or these companies, because I didn't run a business, but my business did $420 million a year. That is a huge business, and that was where I started. And then you kind of go up from there. So you learn so many great things by working with great leaders in these great companies.
No doubt. Marriott, for me, it was, the Marriott way, understanding the financial statements and knowing what I needed to know, contract law, things of that nature. It was just, I didn't know that not every company does that.
Right.
Not every company gets you ready. So you're working for IBM, you rise to a top position. What changed?
At what age do you wish you had unlocked the principles that lead to success? Where do you think you'd be today if you had learned them as a child? Yes, Our Kids Can is a program developed at Harvard and tested in San Antonio's school systems, designed to give children of all backgrounds the opportunity to plant the seeds for future success, using learning techniques they understand and enjoy. Through engaging animated stories, fun sing-along songs, and interactive games, Yes, Our Kids Can teaches your child the empowering, success-driven principles needed to reach their full potential. Don't miss this opportunity to give your children the future they deserve. Yes, Our Kids Can is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Sign up today and help make your child's dreams a reality.
Actually, there's a little step in there. I actually joined a division of eBay called eBay Enterprises that went and they actually ran the commerce sites of all these retailers. So I went and joined them primarily because I wanted to see everything that I've talked about and does it really work in that. And what I learned is it did. And then something happened. I was having a little bit of a health issues, I think, from the stress.
Right.
And my husband kept saying, I think you need to quit working. And I kept saying, I don't want to quit working. I love this. And I did. I love what I did. And I was, for women, and you're making good money and you're successful, and I hit that level, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh, you're asking me to trust you, which is what my mother had to do when my father walked out. And so I had to make a conscious effort at that time. Do I trust him or don't I?
Wow.
And when I decided I trusted him, that yes, there is something else in my life that I'm meant to spend my time on. I didn't know what that was. That changed me. And what I saw, and I don't share this very often, but sorry, I'm a little emotional. I quit work in February 11, 12 years ago. 3 months later, my first child went through a mental health crisis, then my second, then my third. And so when you're in that midst of hell, you just learn so many things. And what I learned, too, is probably my own struggle was similar genetically to theirs. I felt like that was a divine intervention for me that made me quit. I think I would have lost a child if I hadn't. But it also just pivoted my life completely to allow me to focus on what has driven me, which was I've always loved people. I love cultures. I love learning languages. And when you're spending time with the people like that, it's a joy. Like I said, you can't explain. I remember, I'll tell you experience one. I've had Strength in Her for a while. I've done some things on my own in global markets and starting businesses and kind of taking what I learned in business at IBM, but applying it in other countries. And those, again, they're events that just walked into my life. I didn't even know where the country Liberia was. But this one day I was in Liberia. I have what I call my adopted son. His name's Melvin. He's still there. He's just an amazing kid. And I was walking down to see one of his nieces, and his little niece came running to me, and she said, "Oh, my bright grandma." And when she said bright, like it's such an emotional word, to realize that here's this 4-year-old girl, and she just called me bright, that made me realize like I am on the right path and where I'm meant to be.
We do have similar stories. As I looked at coming of an age that most people are saying, David, when are you going to retire? And frankly, it had not entered my mind because I no longer work for, while money is important, and yes, I expect that we'll make some good money in everything that we do. But that's not the reason. So when you find your labor of love, it makes it easy to answer that next question. What do I want to do?
Right.
Because then it just comes naturally. And then to look around and say, wait a minute, do I really get to choose?
Right.
There's only about 3% of the people in this nation that are doing what they want to do.
Right.
Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday. Man.
Yes.
And we're lucky.
Absolutely. It's such a blessing.
It evolved into you answering a question was what you wanted to do. It had to do with people.
Right.
You're in Liberia. What was that? Why were you there?
Let me go back for just a second, and then I'll kind of take you through to Liberia. So 26. I'm a Midwestern girl. Grew up in Ohio, Indiana area, Michigan. Moved to the Utah, I don't know how many years ago now, 30-some. Was only going to live here a short time. Yeah. I would drive up Little Cottonwood Canyon, and there's some houses that are in there, and I used to say, I want to live right there. And never would have guessed that after I was getting married, probably was 4 years later, that my husband and I bought a house there. And I met these women, this neighborhood. We were so common. We were raised by single mothers. We were mothers ourselves. We had the appreciation of knowing what it was to struggle without, and we knew how hard it was to raise children. And so we started working with another gentleman at that time, but we did Christmas support for women. That started Strength in Her Utah. That's where it started, with providing Christmas support for these women, refugees. It was actually just single mothers at that time. Primarily, I remember a time when my mother had broken her knee. We didn't know how we were going to have Christmas, and someone stepped in. And so even though you might say, yeah, my goal is never to give a handout, but a hand up. People might say, oh, that's giving a handout. No, it's not. When you're in that moment, you are truly lifting them up. Mm-hmm. So the 3 women, I said, we started Strengthen Her Utah. We've now expanded into other areas. We recognize the strengths and the weaknesses of each other. One of the ladies is incredibly detailed. She has a degree in accounting. She runs the finances. She coordinates the programs. I'm strategic. I can know what we want to do and plan and organize and market. Mm-hmm. And then the other girl is just the most outgoing personality. They're just beautiful women, but she can ask for money, and I can't do that. That's just not my personality.
I can't do it either.
I can't do that. I can do everything else. I can't do that. So that's where that's where kind of where it started. Since then, we kind of broken off. So we have kind of 3 pillars. We educate. We make sure that there's safety. We've really we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So we partner with like organizations. So we partner with United African Women of Hope locally, United African Women of Hope, which serves refugees coming in approved to the United States. Fight Against Domestic Violence, Stella H. Oaks Foundation, Live Your Dream Foundation, which gives scholarships to single mothers that want to improve their life to take care of their children.
Right.
So we're partner with those. And then we wanted to build a community. And part of that building community is we working together. Besides that, we kind of go on our own pillars. I love the refugee community, and that's kind of my pillar. My other lady loves the Fight Against Domestic Violence. So we've been doing that. But in the middle, I've always been the person, I should say, once I retired, I learned that there's a part called waiting, and it's what you call is a better word, living ready. That means I'm very protective of my time, and I don't let things just take my time,
right? Because
you have to be ready. Mm-hmm. And what you don't expect is that the universe, for me it's God, brings things into your life that you never would have imagined. So here it was, 2020, COVID. I was serving in my church, and I'm not really active in Facebook, Instagram. For some reason, they said, oh, you need to be involved. You have this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I hate this. And I accepted this friendship request from this boy in Liberia. I have no idea why. I don't let my neighbors on my social media. I'm just not that type of person. Anyhow, I'm watching this child, and this child writes about, I've been on my streets since I've been 9 years old. The only way for me to get an education was to come to the main city of Monrovia, which is the capital, and I just want an education. And I read that, and completely against my intuition, I thought, I know how to help him. And I stepped in, and we got pieces in place, and everything that's against an American intuition, like don't help people, don't give them money, don't do this. I went against all those norms, because it was just something inside me that I knew that I had to do. So
you bring up something that I want to make a comment on. How did we get to this place where that's not our norm?
I don't know.
It certainly wasn't always that way, but it's somebody else's problem. It's not our problem.
Yes.
And that is the part that, in my view, we've got to work hard. This is not about politics. This is not about anything else.
Yes.
This is about us. And we don't need permission to be kind. We don't need permission to get involved. We don't need permission to listen to a story. And I remember a young man at the University of Utah had gone up to visit, and everybody was telling me their grades. It was a scholarship deal. We do scholarships, and we put 160 kids through college on our own money. We don't raise money. We just do it on our money. And I was looking at him, and this kid wasn't looking at anybody in the eye. And for whatever reason, you know what that means, because you get that little nudge.
Right.
So I go over and I said, young man, what? Tell me about you. Well, I go to Kearns. What's your grade point average? 4.0. Oh, and what scholarship did you get? I didn't get one. You didn't? Well, you don't ever give up. Something good will come your way. And I walked away, and I asked the counselor, why didn't he get one? He's a dreamer. we can't give it to dreamers. And I said, and she says, well, wait a minute, they're my scholarships.
Right.
She goes, David, you have it in there that it has to go to Utahns first. And I said, well, that just changed.
Right.
You go back when I leave and tell him we're going to pony up for 4 years.
Yeah.
And today he is a partner in a law firm in Miami.
Yeah.
And I just, those are the kind of stories at the end of the day when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You mattered. Your time here is not even a day in eternal time. And my heavens, we can't do good by each other.
Absolutely. Well, you point on something, which is I think what's missing. We stopped asking questions about people. We start telling people or assuming certain things versus just ask the questions. Nick and I were talking about this earlier, and I said I learned this later in life, and it was actually through my niece, who was another story, a severe drug addiction, homeless on the streets, and I told her when she's ready I'd help her. She now is 5 years sober. But what I learned in working with her was to stop telling her and start asking questions. So when kids say stuff or you're looking at things, why, like we were just talking, tuck your shirt in. Well, why do you want me to tuck my shirt in? I don't want to tuck my shirt in. Why not? If you ask your children that, my stomach hurts and I've had really bad cramps or whatever it be, all of a sudden you're going to go, okay, I thought you looked sloppy. That's why I'm telling you tuck your shirt in. But if I had asked the question, why isn't your shirt tucked in, and you told me you had really bad cramps and a stomach ache, I wouldn't have told you to tuck your shirt in. And so I've had a pivot later in life to try, and it's so hard. You talked about habits. It's hard to create habits. I want to tell, but then when I started asking questions, the whole world changed. Mm-hmm. When you deliver to a refugee's house and you see this big TV on the wall and everything else, but they're on this program that they need help, and they do. But if people see that and say, don't look at the TV, but ask them, and this happened last year, how'd you come to the United States? And if that mother would have told you, if she felt like it, I was in the refugee camp for 7 years. I have my husband and I and my 6 children on the list to come over. I got pregnant in the middle of that. I had my 7th child 9 months ago. I got approved to come to the United States, but because my baby, who's now 9 months, now a year, was not on that original list, I had to make a choice. I could come to the United States and leave my child behind, or we could all start again. And I had an unfortunate, I don't know what she would say, but what I learned is she chose to come to the United States for a better life, and that child is still back in Congo. So instead of judging that lady because she, for however reason, they got money or somebody gave it to her to put the TV on the roll, ask the question, you now have a complete different view of her.
Well, in one of the podcasts I had earlier on, we were talking about a young man who started the cup pod,
Mm-hmm.
The Korean food in the cup.
Yeah, Cup Up.
Cup Up.
I love that. I love that company.
And he shared with me some of the stories that our parents do. In his case, they came for vacation.
Yeah.
And then when they went to leave, and he's 11 years old, they sat him and his brother down and said, we found a host family. We're not taking you back.
Yeah.
And we're going to leave you here. There was no Facebook. There was no FaceTime. And
right.
Sometimes, others would look at how could someone do that?
Yeah.
You don't know if you're not feeling what they feel.
And living,
and so for me, I try really hard. Don't judge somebody else because you don't know them. You don't know them. But we're coming to an end here, which is unbelievable.
Wow.
But there's something that I don't want to miss. 10,000 refugees you helped come here?
I didn't help them. There are many refugees that come here,
okay.
But we serve that community. So this Christmas season, I'm just finishing the letters to ask for support again. Mm-hmm. The first year that we did the refugees in just Congo, we had 50, and then the next year, I'm thinking we're multiple hundred, but just those refugees. I'm thinking, it'll be the same. All of a sudden, it doubled. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because you never want to commit something that you can't fulfill through. And so we're in that process right now. There's multiple ways you can help. Some people are blessed financially, and that's a gift that they've been given, and they can, through a donor-assisted fund, a check, Venmo, look at Strengthen Here Utah, or follow us on Instagram, because you will see what we're doing. Some families want to be involved. So, again, if you're on that Instagram, we'll get you signed up. You can actually support a family, go to that family, meet the family. They will be quiet if it's a refugee family, so you need to kind of get it out of them.
Right.
But it's a great opportunity for your children.
Perfect.
And
So
then there's
individuals that watch or talk to me about you. Strengthen Her Utah has a link.
Yeah, just go to the website, strengthenherutah.org.
We'll try to get that link on the screen so that they can come and get involved. Now, whether it's for some, you don't want to say which one's more important, but the asset of money for sure is important. Right. But the asset of time is incredibly important.
One thing that we all have the same.
Yeah.
And then the third way, which we just started this last year, my daughter who graduated from college said, I have friends that want to help. They can't support a family. So we created an Amazon wish list with these things. So they can just buy one item if they have, whatever. But there's so many ways to get involved in our city. There's just so much good in our city, so many people in need. And when you hear these children, I look forward to the season. When you hear these children that can't distinguish between wants and needs because they're the same, they don't understand what a want is, they need. When you hear them say, I'm like, well, what do you want? A water bottle. Why do you want a water bottle? Yeah. Well, they want a Stanley Cup because they look like they want to fit in with the other kids. Yeah. One girl said to me, I want a suitcase. Well, what do you want a suitcase for? I didn't realize it. The refugee community does not give in dressers. We were just blessed this year. Minky Couture, 75 blankets. These women come in, refugees in the spring. No one tells them it's going to get really, really cold, and they are freezing by the time it's November. So blankets, towels. I have one family, one towel that they bathed with of children. There's seven children, eight people in a family. And I can guarantee you these towels do not look like ours.
Well, Melissa, you certainly blessed me today. I am so thankful that you came on the program. We didn't know each other, and I feel like the time has gone by really quick. I want to give you a copy of my book, Live Ready.
Couldn't wait to read this. I was going to get it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you so much being on our program.
Thank you. Such a blessing to have me on. Thank you so much.